77 WABC invite you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our first VIP guest. He is Steve Moore. He is a former senior economic advisor to President Trump, co-founder of, I guess you'd call it, would you call it Com for Prosperity, Steve, as far as
Trump for Prosperity, exactly. Good to be with you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be with you. You're so great on Fox News every night, and honored to be on your show. By the way, the most important thing, Joe, is that on Saturday afternoons we have the More Money show on WABC.
That's right. I was about to get to that because there's 1,000 different titles that you have. That's too funny. Obviously, yes. It's a great show, by the way. I mean, that's what's great about WABC, by the way, because we have live programming like throughout, the weekend when everybody else is in tape or, whatever. So that's
exactly
always a good thing. And obviously Club for Growth founder as well. So Stephen, as far as the big, beautiful bill is concerned, I see polls that say, well, it's kind of unpopular, and big bills tend to be like that. I always think back to the ironically named Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and then as the years went on, people kind of came to embrace it. Now a majority actually support Obamacare. I'm not remotely comparing this bill as far as benefits, if you want to call them that, to Obamacare. But in this case, all I think about is if this doesn't pass and those tax cuts expire, then Democrats would be taking over the House for sure in 2026. And obviously the Trump administration, all the successes would go sideways if this didn't pass. So that's the biggest benefit I see out of this. But what else do some people need to know about the big, beautiful bill besides the tax cuts being extended?
Yeah, well, how much time have you got? I mean, this actually, this is a fantastic bill. So let me say this, that you got it right, except you left out one thing, that if, the most important thing is if this bill had not passed and the Democrats had had their way, we'd be dropping the tax equivalent of a nuclear bomb on the U.S. economy in January, which would be a $4 trillion tax increase. Apparently, the Democrats wanted that to happen because they all voted against the Trump bill, which I think was disgraceful, frankly. We used to be in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the Democrats were for supply-side tax cuts, too. It was not a partisan issue. So shame. And look, I'm not a rah-rah Republican either. I don't think they're the solution to all our problems. But for the Democrats to all be against growth and prosperity, I don't quite understand it. So I just wrote a column, Joe, basically asking a question, is this the most conservative victory in 50 years? And it may well be. I mean, if you look at this bill, it's not just the tax cut. It's expansion of school choice. It's expansion of health savings accounts. So Americans have more control of their health care dollars. We got rid of the remember the electric vehicle mandate. We got rid of the student loan bailouts of Biden era. We have work requirements now for food stamps and Medicaid, which the vast majority of Americans support. So, I mean, could go on, but this is a big victory. I don't love everything in the bill, but 90% of it is very pro-growth. And I think, lastly, Joe, I think you're going to see a big boom in the stock market. We saw a 300-point increase in the Dow right after the bill passed. I think you're going to see, quite a nice boom market over the next year.
And that's the thing, Steve, and we're talking to Steve Moore as far as, you don't have to like everything in this bill, but here's the thing, and, you see the Thomas Masseys of the world, maybe the most useless member of Congress this side of AOC. I mean, just perpetually votes no on everything and never offers an alternative solution. I don't mind if you vote no. I don't mind if you vote on principle. But the fact that this guy just reflexively says no to everything is remarkable. So you take him away as a Republican vote. Mike Johnson has almost zero room for error in the Congress. John Thune only has a 1 or 2 vote margin in the Senate when you consider that, Tom Tillis is on his way out the door, so he's going to be anti-Trump so we can get that next CNN gig, I suppose. But overall, the fact that all these cats, dude, were herded in this case, and they were able to push this over the finish line on the day Donald Trump won it, by the way. I won it at my desk on July 4th, and sure enough, there it is. But they had to make compromises. If you want Lisa Murkowski on board, for example, you had to give a little there. You had to to give to moderate Republicans to get them on board in the House. So that's the thing. It was impossible to have a perfect bill because the numbers simply weren't there in the House or the Senate.
Yeah, so, I very rarely admit that I'm wrong, Joe. Very rarely. But, I was wrong about this. For the last 3 weeks, people said, can they get this done by July 4th? I said, no way. I mean, they're going to, there's no way. But it shows the power of Trump and the persuasiveness of Trump. He just carried the Congress on his back, said, get this on my desk by 4th of July. And, yes, Mike Johnson, who I think is a superb speaker. I mean, I am nothing but admiration for him, for what he pulled off. It ain't easy. And John Thune as well. And he's new to the job as well for the leader of the Senate. So I'm saluting both of those guys for an amazing job getting the 50 votes in the Senate plus the tie-breaking vote by the vice president. And what did we pass this by? A 2-vote margin in the House. That is a great feat, and it's a great. But look, let's keep politics out of this. This is really good bill for America. It's good for our economy. It's good for prosperity. It's good for low-income areas. How about the fact that we expanded opportunity zones for low-income areas? I didn't hear the Democrats talking about that. I thought they cared about inner cities and things like that. So a lot in this bill is going to help the lowest-income Americans.
And that's the whole thing, Steve, is that so many things in here were concessions for what Democrats used to be completely and totally for, including border security, by the way, right? If you go back to Barack Obama, who was called the porter-in-chief, divisively, right? Because liberals were the extreme ones anyway, like, oh, but you're being too aggressive on this. And same with Bill Clinton as well. And now we obviously see border security in this as well. And I have to put politics back into this. I know we should take politics out of it because from an economic perspective, you're right. I think we're going to see a huge boom in the stock market, which, by the way, in April, everybody said that their 401ks were completely vanishing.
Oh, I know.
The stock market is up about 5% since Trump took office. So all of that's been recovered and then some, and it's going to even take off. A lot of people think from here. I mentioned before the Atlanta Fed sees GDP growth at 4.6% in the second quarter. Yep. We were told that we can't get above 3% ever again.
Right.
So that's pretty huge. But I'm going to put politics back in this because I got to get your reaction to Representative Jason Crow, Democrat, goes on CNN, of course, and is talking about how this bill may actually literally kill people. This is cut 4, guys. Go.
I've been talking to my constituents. I've been reading their letters, the fear, the anxiety. I mean, there are literally people that I'm talking to that I represent, Pam, who don't know if they're going to literally survive this.
I think it was a Democrat that once said, Steve, FDR, that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And this is what Democrats are running on at this point, just fear-mongering around this bill. Will it be effective going into 2026 when they talk about 11 million people, for example, being kicked off Medicaid because we actually have this thing called a work requirement now, which at last check, that's something that Bill Clinton supported when he was in office, Democrat, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great point. So I'm an old guy, and I remember when Newt Gingrich took the House back in '95, when what we called the Republican Revolution back then, and we did it, by the way, in combination with Bill Clinton, who was a pretty fiscally conservative president after all, and we did pass work requirements for welfare programs. It was very controversial, very controversial. You saw the same kinds of speeches back then, Joe, among the Democrats: blood in the streets, people are going to starve to death, et cetera. And even the Brookings Institute, which I think you would agree is a pretty liberal organization,
yes,
did the definitive study 5 years after welfare reform. They said, guess what? You know what happened, Joe? 90% of these people on welfare, they got jobs, they got in the labor force, they saw their incomes rise. Child poverty actually fell after the welfare reforms. Child and overall poverty fell because look, you can't get rich on welfare. Welfare is a trap. Yes. We let people out of the trap, and the only way you can advance economically is get a job and climb that economic ladder. So why is it that it worked under Bill Clinton, but now it's going to kill people?
That's the question of the day right now as we're talking to Steve Moore. And yeah, this bill is absolutely pro-growth, pro-capitalism, all the things that a Steve Moore supports. Yet then I see here in New York City a guy named Zohran Mamdani currently leading in the polls to be New York's next mayor. And the thing is about this guy, besides being literally a communist, like in terms of the things that he supports in terms of seizing manufacturing, right, and government-run grocery stores and free universal child care. Gee, how are we going to pay for that? It doesn't quite give an answer outside of tax the rich, which already people in New York are quite taxed already. Well, here's Al Sharpton pronouncing Mamdani's name in a very, very interesting way that only Al Sharpton could through a teleprompter, asking about Mamdani actually pulling an Elizabeth Warren here and lying on a college application to Columbia University, saying that he's black when at last check he absolutely is not. Listen to this cut, Steve. You're going to love it. Cut 3, go.
Yeah. Now, quick follow-up. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is attacking Mamdani over reports that he identified himself as African-American and Asian on college applications. Mamdani was born in Uganda, his parents from India. What are your thoughts on this issue? Mamdani has checked multiple boxes trying to capture what he calls the fullness of his background. I mean, is this a real issue to you?
Is it a real issue? I forgot about that. He also said he was Asian, which is quite the turn. Unfortunately, Steve, we only have about 20 seconds, but your reaction to Mamdani, however you pronounce it in Al Sharpton's world, being the possible next mayor of New York as a communist.
So I'm from Chicago, I think, as you know, Joe, and
yes.
We tried this in Chicago with Brandon Johnson, who is a communist as well, and a socialist, and he's destroyed the city of Chicago, and it breaks my heart. Let's not destroy New York City or Empire City in America.
Yeah, Brandon Johnson currently at 6% approval, which is like lice is more popular. Steve, we got to go, but thanks for joining on a Sunday morning. We really appreciate it.
You too, Joe. And remember, I came on your show in the condition that you come on my show in the weeks ahead. So I'm
there next week. Done deal, dude.
Okay. Take care.
That's called live negotiation right there, guys, and it works. The pressure was overwhelming. Thanks, Steve.
I'm like Donald Trump.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.